Hi, everyone. We are now joined by Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Stars, Stripes, and Lights Board, and Bill Lawson, former Paralyzed Veterans of America president. And I'll just kick it over to you two for your exciting Checker Flag Foundation announcement.
Yeah, well, I think you can hear me, right? You guys got me back there, but thank you for being here. Appreciate it's a good media turnout, so that's great. But we're glad to be here. We're back here in Charlotte for race weeks, of course. The Coke 600 is a little bit more of a special race week, I think, for a number of reasons. With respect to the race being so long and being kind of a crown jewel, but also with respect to Memorial Day weekend and some of the history of our sport. A lot of you guys in the room know how this all works, but with respect to NASCAR and a lot of its founding members coming back from World War II and founding the sport, it's created a strong legacy and tie-in to our military, and I think that year over year NASCAR puts a lot of effort collectively from the tracks, the teams, sanctioning body, and even some of the sponsors to honoring that legacy. And this year is no different. NASCAR has the program with the fallen soldiers, on the roofs of the car, which I think is really humbling in a lot of ways. And we're glad to play a part of that. But I have my own foundation, the Checker Flag Foundation, and I feel like it's important to give back in a lot of ways because of the privileges I have as a race car driver. And so we have a number of initiatives, and we're here to talk about those today. Probably most importantly, Bill Lawson's here with the PVA, which is the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and we have a program we're kind of launching with them for the next few weeks that we're going to talk about a little bit, which has to do with stages. The Coke 600 has 4 stages, which some people probably know that. I had to get reminded of that myself. So there's some extra opportunities there to win stages, earn stage points, and that's one of the things I think as a team we've done really well this year. We haven't probably had the average finish that we want, but our stage points has really propelled us through the season and kept us competitive in the points. So with respect to that, we created a program where essentially we're going to make a donation for stage wins over the next a few weeks of the racing season, if we're able to accumulate them, of $1,000 a stage win to the PVA for some programs that they have. And I feel very fortunate that our partners on the race car have joined us with Alliance, Worth, and Snap-on, some of our key partners. And Bill and his team have a great program called PAVE that he's here to talk about for how that's going to be applied to helping veterans find jobs. So with that, I think I'll let Bill kind of take the way and tell us a little bit about PAVE and what that all means to you.
Thank you, Brad. First, let me thank Brad and the Checkered Flag Foundation for supporting our organization, and he's been a supporter of ours for quite a long time. Also thank Worth, Alliance Truck Parts, and Snap-on for joining the campaign, Brad. Brad mentioned the Paralyzed Veterans of America. We're actually celebrating our 72nd year as an organization. We were founded back in 1946 with a group of spinal cord injured veterans that came back from World War II. You all know, and have you heard in the media lately, that the unemployment rate has been going down. But nobody talks about the unemployment rate for veterans with catastrophic disabilities. It's unfortunately not going down. So the Paralyzed Veterans of America decided we would start a program, and it's called Operation PAVE. PAVE stands for Paving Access for Veterans Employment. And what we do is we partner our counselors with disabled veterans, and we look to see what kind of skills do they have, and then we try to marry them and their skills with an employer. We also will help their families to find jobs as well. One thing that Operation PAVE does is we try to bring back the dreams of those people that came back with those catastrophic disabilities. And one of those dreams is to have a good job at a good organization. And to date, we have helped over 5,000 disabled veterans find occupations. I will give an example of one in Richmond, Virginia. This guy was a quadriplegic and basically homeless. He was sleeping on a friend's couch. Well, he got ill and he had to go into the spinal cord injury center at the Richmond Veterans Hospital. And one of our counselors saw him at the bedside and got to talking to him. And they worked with this guy. And now he is working for the state of Virginia, making high 5-digit numbers. So we have changed a life and built a future there. And that's what this program is all about. And we can't do it without help from sponsors such as Brad and his foundation. And we just can't thank you enough for that, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's pretty hard to follow. But we're glad to support. You know, I think the NASCAR community cares about the military in a way that few other communities do. And I hope to play at least some small part in helping you guys out in another of other initiatives within the military and those that have made sacrifices for our country along the way. So thank you, Bill.
I might mention too that the services that we provide not only to in our Operation PAVE, but in all the programs that paralyzed veterans have is free to all veterans. We charge nothing for our services, and that's the way it should be. And we can only do that with the support of sponsors.
Open it up for questions. Right
Try this again. Hey, it's working this time. Mike Neff from frontstretch.com. Brad, you have a unique position. Not only are you a race car driver, but you are also a small business owner. And does that perspective that you have as a small business owner give you an opportunity to add different perspectives as to how you help out with this PAVE initiative?
Well, absolutely, because quite honestly, some of the veterans that I've worked with or had the privilege to work with over the years have been some of the best employees with the work ethic and discipline that they have. So, you know, I've seen the positives along the way, and certainly had some experiences that can, you know, help me to appreciate initiatives like this.
Tim?
Brad, obviously we've followed you for years in your devotion and commitment to the veterans of throughout America and all different types of programs. What drew you to this program and this direct initiative with PAVE? Was there any one particular aspect of it that really caught your attention?
Well, I really like programs based around jobs because I think the experiences I've had with my foundation have shown that most veterans and even active duty just want to be treated like normal people. And, you know, for us, you know, I think we sometimes take advantage, or maybe not take advantage, but take for granted what normal is. And having a job is one of the most normal things you can, you know, have. Having an income, ability to feed your family, take care of yourself. So I like initiatives like that because I think that from the time that I've spent with a number of military members, that's one of the things I hear the most.
Go ahead, right there, Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. Brad, if I could go off the page for a second, just like to get your reaction to your boss getting into the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, he has a legacy that's harder to define than I think most everyone else in the Hall of Fame because of his background, not just as a team owner, but you know, he has a background as you know, owning the tracks. He has a background of owning businesses that have, you know, helped sponsor the sport, and beyond that. So he has such a diverse background, and there's really not a part of the sport that I can't think of, or that I can think of that he hasn't touched. And so I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, and it's great to see him get the recognition of the Hall of Fame accordingly.
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Brad, you went up to Norfolk recently also and spent some time up there. Can you describe that trip in the helicopter and kind of what you went through with them and how that might have changed your perspective?
Well, yeah, we've
also?
had a busy month for sure. You know, we're announcing this program today with the PVA, which we're proud of. We have a camp going on right now as well to help military members, Operation Purple Camp, which we're really proud of, which is an initiative to help out service members who are returning from the battlefield and kind of get reintegrated with their families. Of course, we have the Eckerd family, whose son, Chris, name is on the roof of my car or windshield of my car, that we're honoring for his commitment and sacrifice. And I spent some time with their family yesterday, and that was really humbling. And like you said, we also got the opportunity here over the past month to go up to Norfolk and to check out the latest aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, which I can tell you was pretty amazing. And the technology and the people that it takes to make that thing run is just state of the art and really at a very high level. So it's always an honor to get to do these things. It comes as both a privilege and a responsibility that I have from being a professional race car driver, and that I feel. So it's great to be able to act upon them.
Well, thanks, Bill, and thanks, Brad. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. I think he had one question. Go ahead. We
I'm sorry.
can take one
Didn't
more before we.
Jerry Jordan Kicking, Tires.net, Performance Racing Network. Just want to ask you about your season so far to date, and also going into Pocono. Looking forward to towards the back half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we've been decent. We haven't won a race, which is, frustrating. I think Kevin's won so many that a lot of people are saying that right now. I think Kevin has proven that, the cars have a lot of capability. We haven't gotten that out of our cars at this point. We're hopeful to do so. Maybe it's this weekend. Knock on wood, right? Be a big weekend for us. But I'm optimistic that we can get there and get there, fairly quickly. So every weekend's a new opportunity just to do that. And we'll see what we have for this one. Thank you. All right. All the best, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, hi again, everyone. We're joined by Jimmy Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Patriotic Chevrolet. Jimmy, so you have Frankie Phillips on the window of your car this weekend, and his mom is a Lowe's employee, right?
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about how it feels to not only serve him in his memory this weekend, but also for a Lowe's employee as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to sit here and listen to Brad's discussion and what he's involved with, and knowing that we will all carry names on our cars, and for me to have the honor to carry a Lowe's employee that's been affected, with her son Frankie Phillips being lost, I guess around 5 years ago now. So it is an honor. There's always a lot of pressure to win, but my experience the last few years in being involved, representing different individuals on the car, has taken that to a new level. And to really honor a fallen soldier and to meet their families, hear the stories about the individual, it just makes it so much more real. And to see the excitement, enthusiasm, and emotion behind the family being here at the race, seeing you at pre-race, and hopefully someday, and hopefully it's this weekend, I can experience the joy of winning the race and seeing them in victory lane. So it's a program I'm very proud of NASCAR to be a part of. I'm very proud of Lowe's to support, and it's just an honor to have the name, Frankie's name, and names on all of our cars out there through the course of the weekend.
Want to kick it off with Kelly?
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. So, Jimmy, switching gears, any update on the sponsorship hunt, and what has that process been like for you to be a part of trying to find a new partner?
We've got 6 ready to go. We're just waiting for you guys to ask us when. It's going really well. We'll hopefully have something to announce in the near future. But the excitement about the 48 car, the multiple companies that are interested in the ideas and the ways that people would like to use us are very exciting and encouraging. So, of course, we don't want to see Lowe's leave. We've had such an amazing run with them. And there's a little bit of fear associated with such a big sponsor and such an integral part of Hendrick Motorsports leaving. But the response has been very, very strong and very well. So when Mr. Hendrick makes his decision and we're able to kind of ink what opportunities are out there, obviously those announcements will be made, but things have been going very well. Yeah, the process is long. A lot of conversing and ideas, and you feel like sometimes a conversation with a given company is going a different direction, and then they go and we go to work and brainstorm and come back with a new idea and angle. So it's amazing how much follow-up is involved and how much collaboration exists through it all. So I've enjoyed the process. I've enjoyed being involved. I've learned a ton. I've been able to bring some opportunities to the table through my own contacts that I have, and then also others have come along through Mr. Hendricks Network and other networks. So it's been interesting. It's taken a lot of time, and it's been a fun new experience for me.
So after Daniel, we're going to go to Mike, Lee, Deb, Woody, and then Jacob.
Daniel McFadden with NBC Sports. Jimmy, how has your philosophy towards strategy for this race changed since the beginning of your career, especially with the introduction of stages and you have 4 in this race? Kevin Harvick was in here earlier, and he said you have to make a qualifying lap every single lap in this race. Is that your philosophy, and how has it changed since you first started in this race?
Yeah, when I first started, obviously no stages to consider or worry about. So that was way different, and you just race differently. The whole environment was different on the track. The Mark Martin way of working with somebody and let them go, they'll let you go, and playing that game, it's out the window now. So that's one element. And then 2, as the cars continue to get faster and faster, it's just harder and harder to make competitive passes. So those 2 elements make you fight for track position starting on Friday in qualifying, or Thursday, I guess this week, in qualifying, and carries right on through even 600 miles.
And then go to Mike.
Mike Embry, USA Today. How do you think Sunday's race would look if you guys use the package from last week?
That's a good question. I know there's been a lot of conversations around it following the excitement in the All-Star race. I don't know. I feel like that first segment's probably the best indication. Handling still did matter. You could argue that if the teams had more practice time and we could adjust on the cars, we could get them to all handle much better and stay in a tighter group. So I don't know, but there seems to be a very positive response in what was seen in the race itself. So I know there's a lot of consideration being put into it, and we might just have to try it somewhere to see. That could be a realistic next step, to try it at a real points race and see.
Lee?
Lee Spencer, Racing Boys. I have a couple of questions. First of all, was there any truth to the rumor that Red Bull was interested in sponsoring the 48?
There's definitely there's some interest there. I think there's interest from a variety of different companies. That would be one of a long list of hopefuls.
And also, we talked to Jeff Gordon last night. He said you were one of the first texts that he got. Can you kind of reflect on his career and, when you think about people in NASCAR and their contributions to the sport, he certainly changed the perception of NASCAR to the U.S. in general, and kind of took it out of it being a regional sport and took it other places, opened the door for a lot of California guys to come in. Can you just kind of talk about reflect on his accomplishment?
Yeah, I'm so happy. He's in first ballot. His accomplishments, we all know on the track, and I guess we all know in this room how he was so integral at a point in time for NASCAR to take us mainstream, and really kind of transcended the sport like maybe only Senior had been able to do, or Richard Petty in their eras. And I think the competition and the rivalry that existed between Dale Senior and Jeff was a big ingredient in that. TV, media, nationwide exposure all worked well in Jeff's timing, and his success and his willingness to be out there and his ability to be out there and carry the sport just took him to all new heights. And then to drive for him, be selected by him, it's been mind-blowing. I can't thank him enough for the opportunities that I've had, the way it's changed my life, racing against him, being friends with him. I'm just truly happy for he and his family, and I know it's going to be a big celebration for those guys. Yep.
And Deb?
Jimmy, Deb Williams, Racing Today and ESPNW. With all of the engineering and simulations that exist today, how much input does a driver really have into the setup, or do the engineers and all say, this is what you need, take it and run with it?
drivers have a lot to say with it in our sport because we only get a handful of opportunities to collect real data. Open test sessions are the only time that we can collect that data for the vehicle itself and the track. Wheel force transducer tests, where the manufacturers go run, that collects tire data. And then you've got to marry those two together. So when you think about the tracks we test at, or allowed to test at, and I think there's probably 5 open tests a year, and we've got 23 tracks on the circuit. Every winter and summer, the surface changes, the grip level changes, and before you know it, you've got data that's years and years and years old that you're trying to trust and believe, and then you build your simulation around it. So it is a tough environment, and the driver is still very much required, and the crew chief to have gut decisions made. All other forms of motorsports, they're streaming telemetry or can collect telemetry and data, every lap of every race, and that just makes that world so much easier to make the right decisions. For us, it's still about the gut decision between the driver and the crew chief. Yep.
All right, Woody.
Woody came with MRN. Jimmy, I wanted to ask you to look ahead a little bit at Pocono. When you go there, are you a guy that thinks I got to be really good in one of these 3 corners or pretty good in all 3? And describe the dynamic of such a short time between the 2 races there.
Yeah, I mean, driving for Chad Canales, he wants you good in all 3, so I can't just pick one, unfortunately. At different years, when I look back to the success we've had there, it wasn't just one turn. I mean, we're pretty strong all the way around the track. It's hard to say. Turn 3 seems to be very important and can help with lap time pretty significantly for qualifying and things like that. But the short time span in between, I know it's close together, but the races just seem different for some reason. When I first came in, I heard a lot of people talking about how things wouldn't change much from the first to the second race, but for whatever reason, through my experiences, they've been different races and different setups usually required to go get the job done. Yep.
Go to Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Jimmy, to go back kind of to what Kelly was saying a little bit ago, obviously we know how special the relationship between you and Lowe's has been, but as you get ready to kind of go into this new chapter of your career, so to speak, on the sponsorship side, is there a level of excitement for you in now getting ready and being able to work with some different companies than you've had in the past 17, 18 years?
Yeah, at this stage of it, at first there was I had to swallow the pill that Lowe's wasn't coming back, and of course I wanted to finish my career with them. So, now where we're at, and that ship has sailed, in the excitement of what could be out there, what the options are with the various companies we're speaking to. It is exciting. It is fun to see look through a different lens and see what opportunities are out there. Also, how I can be integrated into their mission statement in a sense, and help them internally and externally, how they're going to market us, how they're going to use us. That is all exciting stuff, and we have some great opportunities there to look at.
With the way this race has changed, obviously you've been good here at Charlotte for a long time, but with stage racing now to kind of break it up, the way the equipment has advanced, the way driver fitness, I think you could definitely speak to that, has advanced over the years. Is this race any less grueling now than it was 20, 30 years ago, or even when you first started?
I can't say it's gotten any easier through my career here. And we might finish a little earlier, a little quicker on some years due to speed, but G-forces are higher, so I just think it all kind of levels out. I'm thinking back to the days when they didn't have power steering. That might have been a little bit different, but it is a very, very long and difficult race that I spend a lot of time physically preparing for, making sure that I'm right. Treat it a lot like a triathlon with the electrolytes and carbs and the strategy and how to stay fueled and alert through the course of the race. So it's definitely a big day in the office.
Alrighty, thanks, Jimmy, and good luck this weekend. Hi, guys. We are now joined by Daniel Hemrick, driver of the number 21 South Point Hotel and Casino Chevrolet. So, Daniel, you're from nearby Kannapolis, North Carolina. Can you kind of share some memories that you have here at Charlotte Motor Speedway and what it means to you to race here?
Yeah, honestly, some of my fondest racing moments, period, started here at Charlotte. Other than the new dirt track, I call it new. I raced at the old one, go-karts from the time I was 7, 8 years old, to the 5th mile out back, to the quarter mile here inside the big track, and did all that stuff in hopes of having an opportunity to run on the 1.5 mile here at Charlotte one day. And myself and Bubba Wallace were playing golf earlier, and he was talking about qualifying tonight. I said, man, I forgot about it was qualifying night. We both kind of reminisced a little bit about how we used to come as kids, sitting in the grandstands and watch pole night. And when we were Bandolero and Legend Car racing, we would race the quarter mile in front of all the guys. This was our big night every year, was racing on pole night, and then going up in the stands and watching pole night. So, like I said, just a lot of fond memories here, and being close to this place is very special, and it's always fun when we get to come back.
Great. I'm going to open the floor for questions. I'm going to right here to Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport, and thank you for going exactly where I was hoping you were going to go. You mentioned, Daniel, starting your career on the front stretch. Obviously, this is in no way comparative to that per se, but is there anything you learned from your time in Legends Cars that you can bring up to here? And what does it mean to you to have been a part of it for as long as you were, with this summer going to be the 25th anniversary?
Yeah, it's pretty special. Somebody reminded me the other day that this year is the 25th anniversary of the summer shootout, and that's very special because I was a part of it in some way, shape, or form for about probably time I was 10 years old up until 2 years ago. I ran a race in some form or fashion, and just gained experience every summer out here racing and get some of the best. And as time goes, and as you see younger generation of drivers continue to come to this level and instantly compete at a very high level, a lot of that is attested to those Bandoleros and Legend Car ranks and doing it here in Charlotte. If you want to race those style of cars, you would come here on every Monday and Tuesday and try to put your name on the map. And fortunately, between the road of Legend Cars to Bruton Smith holding the Legends Million event here, myself being able to win that, all that stuff, it just gave myself experience from not only a racetrack standpoint, but from the media side. A race of that magnitude, the Legends Million, gives you an opportunity to do stuff just like this, and that's be in front of people and speak to the media and do all the things that you have to be able to do at this level to be successful. And it's really cool to see even the next generation of kids coming in that are coming right out of Legend Cars and are fast. Obviously, William Byron's probably the most recent one. William actually, I can remember trying to teach him little things of basic racing knowledge here racing at the summer shootout, and him to go on and drive for me for a couple 8-mile races, and look at him now. He's a superstar in our sport and going to continue to be. So that's really cool to see the progress and how there is a direct avenue for kids coming up.
Kick it right here to Woody.
So Woody came with MRN. Daniel, after seeing what we saw with the Cup cars in the Xfinity or the Cup Series with the package you guys ran at Indy last year and having a chance to do that, what are your expectations for it at Pocono now that they only had an hour of practice and you guys have had a year to think about it essentially? What are you expecting to see from that at Pocono?
I think you're going to see a lot of the same thing you saw, and that was a lot of exciting, close racing, and the speeds are low enough that you can actually do that, and that's race really hard. And obviously have a lot of teammates competing in the All-Star race last week with the package that is very similar to what we'll have in the next coming weeks in the Xfinity Series. And just from our knowledge that we gained off of it last year, it's just a racy package, and that's why it's implemented to more races for us this year. And I'll be shocked if you don't see it be implemented more, down the road in the Cup side of things, because I'm telling you, I keep going back to this question, and I've answered it this way all week, was, what's too fast? As a racer, you never think you're going too fast. But on the other side of that, we talk about how 1.5 mile racing turns into one lane, guys being out by 8-10 seconds or even more, and a big contributor to that is the speed. You start going so fast, and you're on the edge out of control, and everybody's doing all they can do, and that makes it hard to race. And I think what you saw in the All-Star race was guys felt they had that comfortability to drive down the corner wide open side by side. I don't think everybody wants to be wide open everywhere we go, by no means, and there's obviously always room for improvement as far as the package goes, but I thought it was a huge step in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to it being I think it's our next 2 races in the Xfinity Series, and seeing how what the trend continues to be on that side of it, because I think it's going to help the sport and help the viewers and everybody that we're here to put a show on for.
We're going to go to Deb and then Lee.
Daniel. Deb Williams racing today in ESPNW. You've worked on your own cars for a long time, summer shootout on up. As you have progressed, gotten into the upper levels, you've made your Cup debut now. Do you find your input is just as much as at the lower levels, or has it decreased because of the engineering and simulations? How does it stack up?
For me, when I started making my first couple of starts in any 3 NASCAR, top series, testing was obviously going the other direction. It was limited. So it almost made me feel like my input was almost even more of an addition to a race team because, it's always usable information, I feel like. It's a matter of which avenue and which path you want to go down with it. But in a day where we don't have testing, you got to have somebody, not only myself, but all of our teammates. You got to have the ability to really diagnose what you need and which direction you want to send your guys. Because as we go to these racetracks and we get 2 55-minute practices, majority of the places we go, especially in the Xfinity Series, you don't have much time to do a whole lot of anything. So your input and the way I've had to go about it to get to this level, I feel like it's helped me kind of thrive for as much as I can in those short practices and get our race cars and get our race team going in the right direction. Obviously, I think at times it can be a little overwhelming to a crew chief or a race team as a whole if you've done it the way I've had to do it, because you got to know when to implement those words and when not to. Sometimes it's easy to get kind of just over your head and tell too much, and then that creates them to go down different paths. So just trying to find the balance of when and when not to voice what's going on and do it productively.
LeeSpencerRacingBoys.com. Do you have any of that $1 million left?
It was $1 million purse, $250,000 to win.
Okay.
I had so many people support me that night that that money got divvied out to a lot of different people and partners. Heck, the guy I was driving for, he got a cut. I got my cut. Another guy owned the engine that was in my car. He got some money. And guess what we did the next week? We went and raced. So that's where the rest of it went.
And Austin Dillon was talking the other day about there aren't a lot of drivers from North Carolina. So coming into this race, what kind of pride would there be in winning at the home track?
Yeah, that's something I try not to even let myself think about because it is an exceptional amount of pride that I find in Austin and Ty and the few North Carolina guys that are still left at this level doing it the way we are. And it is. I mean, we're coming here to the home. I feel like driver intros, you feel it. You can feel the electricity in the air and the support of a hometown crowd. And that's something makes you want to step up. It makes you want to go to the next level and compete and do it for the guys that support you. And heck, I'll have probably 60 to 100 family members, friends, just in the grandstands coming to hang out and watch a good race tomorrow and Sunday. So it's something that I find – I don't know, it's just so exhilarating to know that I've been able to get to this point and do it here in my hometown, race at all different racetracks on this complex, and get to do it on the big show.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mike Neff from FrontStretch.com. Daniel, this is a totally off-the-wall weird question for you, but
no, never.
Having started out here in the Legends cars on a quarter mile, you actually raced in the rain. I know we can't do it on some of the bigger ovals, but would you envision it being possible to run rain tires at, say, Martinsville or Loudon, something like that?
Honestly, first off, you're right. Some of the most crazy, outlandish races I can remember were legend car races in the rain here and a couple other short tracks in the area with those scale of cars. And I've never really let myself go down that path and even think about that. Obviously, as you go up the ranks and the speeds become so much higher, it's harder and harder to see that as a possibility. But then you see a package like what the Cup cars had last week and how much that impacted the speeds, but it kind of allows you to be like, hey, maybe it is possible. So I know on the Xfinity side, we do it in road courses, and fortunately, I wish there was some wood up here. I haven't had to do it yet because I'm not sure what kind of fool I'd make out of myself, but it'd definitely be exciting to see NASCAR and everybody try to go down that path.
I'm going to kick it back there to Caleb.
Caleb Whistler, kicking the tires.net. It seems like RCR's kind of been there at the front of the field in the Xfinity Series this season, but you guys can't seem to close the deal either with bad luck or something happening on the racetrack. What do you feel like you guys need to propel yourself to a victory?
We just got to have exactly what you talked about. It's everything go our way. It's so many variables go into every single day, every single weekend at a racetrack. Everything's got to go right in order to put yourself in position. I will say, though, that last year we needed more things to go right to give us a shot to even contend, where this year the speed has allowed us to have more room and more leniency on how we call our races and how many things need to go our way to give us a shot, and that's something to be proud of. I feel like our Xfinity team and with ECR, everybody that supports us back at RCR, we've done so many things to take steps and strides in the right direction this year that we're giving ourselves that shot. And time in and time out, if you do that, it'll always show that it will work out and it will pay off. So I'm thankful to be on the upside of things at RCR, and hopefully we can keep it going and do just what you talked about, and that's hopefully getting the victory lane soon.
Do you have any final questions? All right, thanks, Daniel, and good luck this weekend. Hi, guys. We're now joined by our Xfinity drivers. Elliott Sallard, driver of the number 1 Main Financial Chevrolet. Ross Chastain, driver of the number 4 Florida Watermelon Association Chevrolet. And Ryan Reed, driver of the number 16 Drive Down A1C Lilly Diabetes Ford. Just to kind of kick it off, you guys have had 2 off weekends. Can you kind of tell us about what you did and how you prepare to get back?
Yeah, I'll get us started. So the first weekend was actually really cool. I went out, flew out to Indianapolis, and hung out with a friend of mine, Connor Daly, and made a pretty cool announcement that he's going to be joining me at Road America in the number 6. He's also going to be the Lilly Diabetes Drive Down A1C Ford, which is really cool, and I think it's a very cool partnership to kind of have 2 drivers with diabetes supporting each other as teammates, and then ultimately contending with each other, hopefully for a win.
We didn't do much. We spend all our time at the ballparks, so that's where we were pretty much every night of the 2 weeks off. Had a pretty emotional week this week. One of my best friends in the world had some major surgery, found some tumors inside of his body, and just found out yesterday that they were benign. So we got some good news from that. Yeah. But it's been a kind of a tough week that puts a lot of things in perspective, and kind of makes you know what's important to focus on. But it was good that all happened on our weeks off, so we could all be together and be there to support. And but it's good to be back in the race car, definitely.
Glad he's okay.
Yeah, I raced. I ran the Cup car at Kansas and then the All-Star car here last week. So no off weeks for me. My only one, I guess, this year will be Easter weekend. Was I got to go home for that, and then I'll run straight through to Thanksgiving. So got to be comfortable, man. Making fun of my shoes, but yeah. So didn't take any time off. Did a 3-week run where I never came back to Charlotte. So started at Talladega and came back for the All-Star practice last Friday morning. Drove all night to get here and hopped in some trucks to help some kids out, and just trying to make the most of my time on track. So that's my life.
Great. Want to open the floor for questions? Right here, Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport 2 for Ryan. First, talking about Connor and making his Xfinity debut at Road America this summer. What are do you have any expectations? I know you guys were talking at the announcement. What do you feel like he's going to be capable of in his stock car debut?
I mean, I think that it's a lot of unknown. I think you've seen a lot of guys go into making the open wheel to stock car transition, and we've seen it take all different time lengths. And I think the good thing is for him is that they're on a road course, and a road course he has a lot of laps on. So I fully expect that Connor will be competitive. I know he's going to be in Charlotte a lot, spending a lot of time trying to learn and absorb as much as he can before the event. And then also too, I think us being friends, is going to help as well. I think he can go into it with obviously a little bit more comfortable situation joining us at Roush Fenway. So I think my expectation is that he does really well, and I think we'll all work really hard to make that happen.
Obviously, too, a lot of success over the years for Roush Fenway's Xfinity Series program. You've been a part of that the last few years. Your thoughts, reactions on Jack being in the Hall of Fame?
Man, I said earlier, I was relieved just because Jack is so deserving of it, and I would have I'd been pretty disappointed to see a year go by and him not be a part of it and be inducted. But he's an amazing owner. He's an amazing friend. He's an amazing mentor. And it's not just to me. I mean, so many individuals, drivers, crew chiefs, tons of people in the garage. He's influenced their career and got them to where they are today. And He can do it all. He can go down there and work on the race car, work on the engine, talk about aerodynamics. He knows what it takes to make a good pit stop. He's the most, in my opinion, one of the most well-rounded owners in the garage.
Right to Woody.
Woody came with MRN. For Ryan, I wanted to ask about your track walk tomorrow. Can you tell us more about that? And for Elliott, about the aero package after we saw the Cup guys run it in the All-Star race. You guys have had it for about a year now. What are your expectations for it at Pocono?
Yeah. On the track walk, so tomorrow afternoon we're going to have at 3 o'clock, we're going to have a track walk out here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it's just, we did it last year and it was a huge success. And so basically what it is Lilly Diabetes and I are inviting everyone to come out, walk the 1.5 mile racetrack, check it out. And it's really just to encourage a healthy, fun activity. Come out and join me and a whole bunch of other folks. We're going to have a pit wall banner that you can sign, and we're actually going to have that banner on our pit wall during the race. And so it just continues to show the commitment from Lilly Diabetes to make a positive, healthy impact. And I know for me, living with diabetes, it's so hard, especially when we're traveling a lot, to get that exercise in. So even something as small as a 1.5 mile walk, which I guess that's not that small, but it makes all the difference in the world and can, for me, make a huge difference in my health.
My take on the aero package last year, I thought it was a great race. I thought it was one of the best races we had all year, especially one of the best races we ever had at Indy in the Xfinity cars because of the package. It does a lot of different things. It brings more people into play because you can't get away. It's not like the leader knock can get away with the drag that it creates, especially at the longer straightaways like we're going to have at Indy, like we're going to have at Pocono in Michigan. The leader cannot make a great turn and just get away from the rest of the pack. With the draft, it's just going to bring that second, third, fourth, fifth place car into play before the entry of each and every corner. So to me, the racing's closer, the racing's better. It's harder, in my opinion, because it's almost a halfway kind of hybrid between a normal race and also a speedway race. You got to know when to draft, when to push, when to pull out. If you can't make the pass, can you clear the guy? Are they going to leave you out? I mean, all these things come into play. So I enjoyed the package. I enjoyed watching it last week here, to be honest with you, in the All-Star race. And the biggest key to that package, the longer the straightaway is, the more this package comes into play because the draft is going to work more. Yes, the cars drive a little easier. Yes, so they're going to handle a little better. But it's going to bring that much more people into play because of the drag part of it. And that, at the end of the day, creates really good racing for the fans, but also creates a lot of chances for maybe teams and drivers that wouldn't normally have that good of a chance to win on that style of track. So all in all, I think it's healthy for our series, especially the Affinity, series.
Any final questions? Caleb?
Caleb Whistler, KickingTheTires.net. Ross, how much do you take from what you're learning in the Premium Motorsports Cup cars to the JD Motorsports and the 4 car?
A lot. It's definitely it's helping me a ton. Elliott can probably speak to it as his many years of doing it. It's just the sensation of speed is the biggest thing for the normal packages we run. The low downforce stuff on both series. And then what I felt last week for the different package that we'll run now a few more times in the Xfinity series, the more banking the track has, I felt like played a large part in keeping the cars close together. We didn't race too much last week, but just the sheer amount of banking here at Charlotte, and when we go to Michigan, for example, will be a big added benefit that we didn't have at Indy to keep the cars as close together as we can. But straight up car to car, it's laps are laps for me, and I want as many as I can.
I'm going to go right up front to Mike Neff.
Mike Neff, frontstretch.com. For Elliott and for Ross, especially since you've been in the Cup car so recently. Talking with Corey LaJoie, he was one of the more critical people of the aero package, although he's backed off of that a little bit. He said his biggest dislike of it was that he felt like it took driver ability out of things, that a Cup car should be as hard as it could possibly be to drive, and he felt like it made it easier to drive it. The argument against that is that it makes it more raceable and lets you put things into a spot where you might not normally put it. What's your both take on ability or difficulty in driving a car versus ability to race with the car?
So this is my opinion, right? Like everybody has an opinion. that package makes the car easier to drive when you're by yourself. Yes, that is a true statement because you're not running as fast into the corner. His car is stuck more because you have more downforce on the car. But my take on it, when you're in traffic, when you have to make decisions, when you're tandem with each other through turns 1 and 2 on a restart at Charlotte, and people pushing the way you are, I think the difficulty actually goes up. Because the difficulty of racing goes up because you're closer to each other. It's a whole lot easier to drive a car when there's nobody around you. But when you're 2 and 3 wide, and we saw 4 wide, which didn't work out great turn 3, but I think the difficulty goes up. I was kind of dumbfounded this week seeing some of the media people write that the racing, it didn't take as much as a talented person to drive those cars because of that package. And I'm sitting here thinking, I know now that guy absolutely knows nothing about racing. That when you put people all on top of each other on a 1.5 mile track and racing 2 and 3 wide in a great racing we saw, to me, that's more skill too. And at the end of the day, we saw the cream rise to the top, right? If it didn't take as much driving talent to win, why did the same guy that's winning all the races make the better moves and win the race, right? I mean, all the fast cars work their way up to the front. So, yes, it is easier to drive by itself. But when you start racing and you got to start making decisions, and we heard drivers talking about looking in the rearview mirror more during the race than they were at the front windshield, it's a different style of driving talent, but there's a lot going on. Now you got to learn how to block. You got to learn how to side drive. You got to know when to push. It's a lot more mental game to it. So I don't disagree 100% with what Corey's saying, but Corey really wasn't up in the middle of everything that was going on either, where you had to use all those different techniques as well. But as a fan sitting at home, I thought the race was amazing.
Yeah, well, I stayed back and didn't get up there and race. That was our plan. But, I mean, I don't know, Corey's critical of a lot of things, right? So I'm great friends with him, so I can say that. But, I don't think it's fair to come out and say that after the first time they were in a Cup car package with all that, because, like you said, even back where I was, it was tough. Just trying to let all those guys race and just do our deal. It was even tough for us, and trying to manage guys coming by us. It would pit, and we were, on our own plan. So no, it takes, like Elliott said, everything he said is, I echo it. There's a whole nother set of skills that you have to kind of learn and try to sharpen, I guess. I don't know, but it's things that you never thought of before, and you can throw some things away that you used to do as a driver, but it's tough. Anybody that says it's easy is crazy.
Any final questions? Me?
Elliot, where do you think that package would work for Cup moving forward?
Lee, I might get in trouble for saying this because I don't know where the Cup guys stand for, on it. I think some of the drivers will push back on it because it brings so many other teams into play. If I'm a Cup driver right now and I have a gain on the field, a little edge, I don't want that package because I want to keep my edge, right? I think anywhere you have long straightaways at is a major play in it. I think Pocono and Michigan coming up will be 2 great racetracks to run that package at for the Cup guys. Oh, Indy, definitely. But, since Indy, where it's at on the schedule, as far as chase implications, I'd rather run it at Pocono first here coming up in a couple weeks. I think after what we saw in the All-Star race, run it at Pocono, see what you get. But anywhere where the straightaway length is longer is really going to affect it a lot. I think Pocono would be one heck of a race, Cup race with that. Because can you imagine the pit strategy play on top of it that you don't have at Charlotte, but you have at Pocono because it's such a long track? People pit early when they know they're inside their pit window, throw that into drafting, and everybody pitting at the same time. You might have to pit in groups because of drafting. I mean, all this stuff can play out to make Pocono, in my opinion, a great race if they had that package. And in Michigan as well because of the length of the straightaways and the corner speeds. But it's easy for me to say that because I'm not in the Cup car. But that would just be my opinion with my fan hat on, sitting at home.
Well, luckily, the Xfinity Series is going to run it at Pocono, Michigan, so we'll show everybody what it'll look like.
Well, good luck this weekend, guys. And Ryan, have fun at tomorrow's Little W Walk, okay?